Boom. We are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you
Boom.
for joining us this evening. We have a conversation I'm excited to be having. We have a nice chunk of the MomoGuro and Baobab team. So I'm gonna let you guys go around and introduce yourselves so that we can dive right in. We'll keep it short, but yeah. Introduce yourselves. There we go. Look, there's all of us on the screen now.
Love it.
Yeah, let's start
Okay.
with all of us are like, oh,
Here, let's start. Well, let's start with Nico because Nico and I got to meet first. So Nico and I.
All right,
Nico,
I'll
you
do it
start
very.
with-
Yeah, sure. I'll do a very quick intro. So my name is Nico Casavecchia. I'm the co-creator of MomoGuro together with Martina Le, who couldn't be here because he lives in Europe and he's hopefully sleeping by now. And basically, I'm a filmmaker and a creator, and my career, spans, mixed media, TV commercials and music videos and all sorts of things. But I don't want to take too much time because we're going to be talking about that and all the things MomoGuro. So I'm going to pass it to Alex to tell us who she is.
Hey,
Who are
so
you?
I'm Alex. Yeah, I head up marketing and kind of community and vibes for Baobab Studios, and I've been in gaming for about 20 plus years, working on really cool IPs like Magic the Gathering and D&D and Civ 6 on the Xbox Marketplace and League of Legends. And then spent the past 7 years in blockchain and led a top 4 blockchain foundation. And then spent the past couple years working with creators in Web3. I'm a huge fan of Web3 and NFTs. And so I jumped at the chance to work with Baobab. So I'm going to pass it off to Larry, who is our CTO at Baobab.
Hey, I'm Larry. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO at Baobab. And my background actually, I come from the technical side of things. And my background started at Pixar a long time ago. I worked on some of their earliest films, Toy Story 2, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc. as the technical director. And then I was at DreamWorks for a little over 10, 11 years and was the head of character technologies and all things character related at DreamWorks, and got to work on the Shrek franchise for a number of years and How to Train Your Dragon and Megamind, among other projects. And that's where I met Eric Darnell, who was the director for Ants and the writer and director for all 4 of the Madagascar films at DreamWorks. And Eric's just this incredibly brilliant, not just animator and director, but really also an amazing writer and storyteller and actor, we learned out. And we came together along with our CEO, Maureen Fan, who is the VP of Games at Zynga and someone that I've known for a long time, to form Baobab. And we really wanted to create an independent animation studio that really captured that same heart and love that you have for great stories and great characters, that we've experienced and helped create at Pixar and at DreamWorks. But we wanted to be able to really tell stories in a different way and to build franchises that really cut across mediums in a much more fundamental way. And we started out with VR, actually, and our earliest projects all dived into how do we tell stories where in VR we can make you part of that story. And to date, MomoGuro is our 9th IP that we've created. We've won, I think, 9 Emmys now. We've gone on to a lot of critical acclaim. We have multiple projects that are TV series and films, 2 of which are with Disney Plus. We're really excited to be showcasing some of the metaverse and games that we're creating and Web3 experiences, and we're going to talk a lot more about that. So I won't dive in more, but just setting the stage there. And I'm going to hand it off to Virginia, who is our executive producer and really driving everything MomoGuro at our studio.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, so just as Larry said, Baobab kind of crosses multimedia and really looks at different platforms and how they can bring brands and IP to life. I'm actually head of the gaming studio. And so I'm also the executive producer for MomoGuro. So I've had just what I would say, just the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to partner with Nico and Martine and take a brand from just its inception and really kind of bring it to life. And also partnering with Brian, who I'll introduce next, who's our designer on the games projects. I've actually been in the gaming industry for 27 years. Yes, I did say 27 years. I've been producing games and building teams for cross-platform experiences. I actually started in animation myself, and then kind of transitioned into production. One of my first forays into production was with Barbie Magic Hairstyler. And then from there, worked with EA on games like The Sims and Spore, then transitioned to Zynga, where I did work with Maureen when I was at Zynga, started Zynga.com. So I was the founder of Zynga, Zynga.org, excuse me, not Zynga.com, but I was COO for Zynga.com. And then from there took a break with kids and actually started doing a bit more R&D and research with education and edutainment, and then was VP of product at Forever Games, focusing on VR, which you can see kind of this thread of all this different medium and media and different platforms, which is why I wanted to partner with Baobab and help them bring different IPs to life throughout all of these experiences. And with that, I've been able to meet Brian, who's also worked in a lot of different medias. Brian, why don't you take it from here?
Awesome.
Nice segue. Hi, I'm the lead game designer for this project, and I got 20 years in game design and also 5 years in crypto and DeFi throughout my career. Did a lot of virtual economy balancing, and then when crypto started to become more widespread, that experience was super valuable in tuning crypto economies too. But my background, I worked on Magic the Gathering for 10 years, doing lead game design for many releases there, and worked on Pokemon, and I was a creative director at Disney for a while. So it was sort of my side of things was to take this new IP, the world story characters that Nico and the world building team, the creators of the property, and turn that into something that is playable and is going to be an awesome first release of this product that we hope goes across many media.
Well, awesome. It's great to meet you all so far. I love the introductions. You guys handle improvisation very well, which is always nice. I wanted to kind of dive in. Larry, as the CTO, let's start off with some of the technical questions. Well, how do you bring this amazing? Well, actually, I want to backstep. First off, your guys' artwork is amazing. I've wanted to FOMO click every spam link I saw in that had your guys' name on it, just because of how much I like that IP and branding. Before the call, I was telling Nico how big of a fan of things like Midnight Gospel or Ren and Stimpy I am, and just to see some of this iconic branding come to show up in something that now is also technically interesting to me as well. Tell me about some of the technical details here. I know it's kind of not where I wanted to start the conversation, but you just had a lot of zest for bringing the team together. So I wanted to lead that question your way. Give me the technical overview of the project right now. No. Oh, you're muted, Larry. There we go.
It wouldn't be a live thing without being muted when you try to speak. Well, that's definitely a broad topic of conversation. So I mean, this project, I'll take a step back and just talk a little bit. I start philosophically about technology, and then I'll talk about it in this project. So, when we started our company, we were really focused on VR, and VR was, even though the VR has been around for 50 years, kind of the latest incantation. There are all these early stage VR headsets coming out, and we were trying to tell stories in ways that just hadn't been done before. How do we actually tell a story in a new medium? And it required us to build a lot of technology. And it's very easy early on in a new medium to focus on the technology though, and especially as a technologist, you're like, ooh, what can we do with this, being in a headset? And so, but what that tends to lead is to like cool tech demos that don't really have any meat on their bones. And that was when I started at Pixar, I actually, ironically, I'm embarrassed to say I did VR research 25 years ago before I started at Pixar. That was actually my area of interest. And so I had, an incredible love for the computer graphics that were being developed on Toy Story. And I assumed that it was all like this incredible technical wizardry that made these characters come to life. And then when I got there, I realized it was the heart of animators and storytellers, and that the art and the science, like all this amazing artwork, all this amazing technology were only there to service the story and to service, like the main goals of the project. And that is something that has really stuck with me. And I think, is, of course, near and dear to Eric's heart. So when we started Baobab, we knew that we would be going on new journeys technology-wise, but our North Star was always what's best for the story, what's best for the game design, what's best for the interactions that we develop. And then we, figure out how best to utilize technology in order to support that. And that, of course, can lead to lots of interesting things that we've had to do. And so when we started on this Web3 project, there were, of course, it was a whole host of new questions for us, because we are like a Web2 company, we're a storytelling company, and we've tackled different mediums, but we had never done a VR project. A Web3 project internal. So of course, the first thing we did is we brought in experts like Brian, like Alex, to help us along on that journey. And what I would say is that we ended up kind of building a game design and a game, and kind of an interactive story that is, it takes some of the inspiration from things we've done in the past, but it really is unique. There's nothing, there's nothing out there that's quite like it. And I think that does ultimately come from, wanting to stay true to the, true to the mission of MomoGuro, the kind of creative world that we're creating. And so ultimately, we always end up having our unique, sort of imprint on how we go about doing these things. Just to touch on, I don't want to get in, I could spend a lot of time on the technology. One thing I'll just touch on technology-wise that was interesting for us is the platform that we're developing on. And so our offering, you're going to get, or have the option to buy what we call holo selves, which are your avatars. And those will actually be on, ETH mainnet, layer 1, much as you would buy other NFTs. But then all of the gameplay elements and additional NFTs that we call momos, that you'll take on experiences with you and quests, or little creatures, those are all going to be on IMX. And so we did actually, think from the very beginning about what do we want in a kind of layer 2 platform. And, IMX was kind of, an interesting choice for us as we looked at a bunch of different platforms, because they are really focused on gaming, and their interest in their kind of direction in terms of where they're going were very much aligned. And, one of the things that I think for us is really important is that as we evolve kind of our offerings of MomoGuro, we want to reach out not just to the like early adopters, hardcore Web3 people. We want to bring in people from Web2, and that is kind of how we've approached when we were doing VR projects as well. And IMX is really focused on that, laser focused on that. And so as we look to the future, we feel that where they're going very much matches our interest. And then from a technology standpoint, just the ability to not have gas fees, to to be able to have what feels like a real-time experience with the web app that we're creating is very important. So IMX kind of let us to be able to do all those things.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I want to jump in for a second. When way back in, I don't know, April or May of last year, I mean, this has been going on a while, and Nico will tell you it's even been longer for him. But a few I don't know, like a month ago, or not a month ago, almost a year ago, when we were sitting down with Baobab, they came to us and said, what is the best way to authentically build in Web3? Like, we are the biggest VR developer for Oculus. Like, if you've ever played an Oculus game, you've probably played a Baobab game. And they had all these accolades, but they're like, yeah, we know Oprah and stuff like that has worked on, has voiced our games, but we're storytellers. We want to tell across these platforms. How do we bring in community? And I think the tech is one thing, but also the beautiful part of Web3 is the community, and that's what you can see now. And we brought in focus groups, so tons of different Web 2 and Web 3 communities that sat down and looked at the art and read the lore and are playing the game and are participating. And we took that feedback to Nico and Martine and the team, and basically got to kind of build out the future of MomoGuro with them at our side, right? And so we have people from Mizuki and people from Doodles and people from Aku and like all, Big Head, all different kinds of communities. And I think it really changed the narrative for us and gave us a lot of deep insight and understanding into how the communities wanted to build alongside us. So then when we could go to the L2s and talk about the experiences we were trying to build, we actually could go back with data and a target demographic, if you want to use a marketing term, the communities that we wanted to engage, and then basically said to Immutable, and we looked at Polygon and we looked at a lot of different platforms, but we felt like Immutable had the best future for really kind of targeting gaming and these immersive experiences. And we wanted an L2 that could help onboard Web 2 into Web 3, because we think that we can have a lot of stories ready for people when they're, as they start to come over to Web 3, and we can back that with data and experiences. And so it just, it's amazing where we are today, but a lot of research and communities helped us, kind of get to where we needed to go. We're not a Web3 company. We are a storytelling company that's built out this Web3 arm, but really, at the heart of what we do is storytelling across platforms and bringing communities along for the ride and to create. So anyway, we're pretty excited about what we're building.
Yeah, you guys have an extremely well-credentialed team, and the previous work you guys have done is fantastic. I'll play some of the B-roll from your guys' footage as we continue the conversation here over the next little bit so everybody can take a look. It's again, I was super sold. I like I said, I was trying to FOMO click on links because of what I like. Now, the fact that you did focus groups and found a group of people that like something similar to me is just very so something's wrong, I think. But anyway, this represents some of my favorite
badge of honor.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. But the other thing I wanted to highlight was the reason behind the technological question, kind of upfront, was some of the early community stuff that drew me to it was the deep reverence that I have for its potential. That's why I keep showing up effectively. It's because of what it's been able to do and its ability to support unique Axie Infinity, this kind of crisis moment, and people were able to share value of the growth of this game there, and people were making often more than their parents during one of these crisis moments. And it's because of the technology, and that's not normally the case. Like, not all waves of ideas are kind of community. Yes, the community is hyper important, but what's gathering the community together is the way the technology is allowing us to communicate value to one another. And Larry, I think you answered it very succinctly too, is like using the technology now to do what you guys are really good at, is tell these stories, build an audience, and extraordinarily well branded product. I wanted to ask, what's the Baobab Studios is able to knock out a bunch of different types of IP and branding. What is the MomoGuro umbrella and kind of roadmap for the next 6 months and then into the future look like? I'll let you kind of all chime in with your portion of that answer.
Sure, I'll start, and then I think just
Awesome.
getting a sense of where did MomoGuro start? Like,
Yes, yeah,
kind of
the whole like the
Yeah.
journey. Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to let Nico talk about that journey, but first I'll kind of give you a very kind of quick roadmap. So within very soon, we will have a announcement for the digital collectible and when you'll be able to mint. And that digital collectible will be kind of like your token, your gateway into the very first game, which is appropriately so, a storytelling, very narrative-based light RPG experience. Now, alongside that, in parallel, we're also building another experience. So we will be also announcing another game. So you'll have 2 avenues to go in and experience the MomoGuro universe. So the NFT, the digital collectible that you will mint very soon, will be a hollow self, which is this fusion of both a sentient and warrior being. And Nico will get into that a little bit more. But that hollow self is your persona. That's who you are. That's your unique individual that will go into the game experience and then understand and meet what is this land of Uno? What is MomoGuro? And as you play through, you'll get through a couple months of content, and then the roadmap within a couple months, you'll have the game experience to play, and another couple of months, you'll have episodic content that drops, then additional digital collectibles, and then some merchandising, and then the list goes on. And the other game in parallel will also be live, and that will be growing and expanding. And guess what? All along, the community is what's going to be so important, because they're going to have this hollow self, they're going to be telling stories, and they're going to be interacting with the games. And that's what's so great about having games that are live, is because you're reacting to how the community's playing the game, and you're evolving the game based on what the community wants. And so that's what you'll see over the next 6 to 12 months, is how the community is actually helping us shape what that roadmap is going to look like in 12 months and 18 months and 24 months.
And a TV show. She forgot the TV show. And we're, in the middle of production of a TV show. So I think one of the things
I would expect nothing less. I mean,
yeah, of course, it's just a TV show. I almost said it, but it's just a TV show. But I'll tell you, like, one of the things that I love about Baobab is you can go to the Baobab Studios website and take a look at all the awards. Like, way to go, Larry and Eric and Maureen. It's pretty impressive. But the thing that's really cool is they take these ideas and they've got like a formula for success. So they take these IPs and they build out these different stories, and then they have these relationships that they've developed over the years. Like Disney Plus is an investor in one of our partners, Comcast, Alibaba, right? Like SMG. Like these are massive entertainment, I would say, partners. And we have shows like Witchverse that came from the Baba Yaga IP that Baobab pulled together, and Entercats, with Pamela Rubin, who is the force behind Ralph Breaks the Internet, right, and Moana. So and Entercats is also on Disney Plus. So I say this to you because you can take a look at our past franchises to see what we've built and kind of get a sense of where we're going, and the fact that we built the games first without doing fundraising. So we have this metaverse experience for MomoGuro, in addition to the digital collectible storytelling RPG, in addition to the TV show, in addition to these community experiences that we're, curating alongside the community, in addition to other facets of the franchise. I think, this should give a signal that we came here to tell our stories, and that we have the team, the board, the investors, the backing, the technology, and, most importantly, the creators and community, which is all organic, to, carry this forward. And I think that's powerful.
Yes, I think you guys have a fantastic team. I wouldn't have reached out with so much fervor had I not thought had I
That's
not
so
thought that
fun.
was the case. No, when I said I'm FOMOing on links, look, the community here will know I'm a big fan of finding things I think that are very valuable early. Not always right. Sometimes I've been wrong. Sometimes I've been very right. I guess the point of what I'm trying to get across is a lot of my earlier conversations started off with focusing on biologists and physicists, and effectively high level conversations with good people. To me, are probably one of the most insightful routes we can go down. You guys have, like I said, you performed stunningly in the past. Everyone can do their due diligence here. I hope the people can do a little bit of their own due diligence and research. So part of this is understanding that when we're growing and building this unique relationship and I'll ask this as a question too. And you brought up something I thought was kind of interesting, which is you mentioned a bunch of companies' names that traditionally a lot of the people in the crypto sector might not like CryptoPunks is a huge brand, but didn't start off that way. Didn't start off as a storytelling idea. These are total random or natural or organic objects of the culture of the people that like this kind of Web3 technology. And what I liked about what you guys have done is it fits that organic nature of something that I would like. And I think I'm not alone in my like and my interest of this Web3 sector. So, part of what I wanted to know too, I guess, was what's the full story of Baobab, because you guys have done so much product. Like, tell me how you're going from Web 2 to Web 3. You mentioned a lot of companies who, if you look in the past, like Kodak's not the first to do anything with cameras. They get caught in niches and focuses. How do you go from being a company that can provide all of your IP in paying product to then kind of open sourcing it and making this new transition? What kind of seats you guys? Because you strike me as someone who doesn't normally fit that. Normally you tell me these other big investors like Alibaba, and I'm like, well, I already probably don't like it. Saying, so this is like an out of the norm relationship. Like, okay, I actually, I think I'm pretty positive. I like this. So tell me the story about Baobab as a short, and then how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get into like traversing into like giving the IP away or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I'll give away our secrets, which is, from the beginning as a company, and I think this was heavily, sort of a result of our collective experiences. We knew that we wanted to be able to create franchises. That's really where there's lasting value, where you could create something so powerful, a story, a character, that it transcends medium, that you could tell that story, as a book, you could tell that story and watch it up as a movie, you could play a video game, you could, pick your poison of things. And in all honesty, we often like to joke that we used VR as our like Trojan horse, because VR,
Nice.
it allowed us to tell stories and to, first of all, creatively be inspired and just to be able to tackle storytelling in a different way. But it also allowed us to be on a level playing field and to actually get noticed and to really build up what's unique about the way we tell stories. And so our mission statement is to inspire you to dream, to bring out your sense of wonder, and to make you matter. And it's that last part that is really what has differentiated us in what we've done compared to, just being another Pixar startup company or, or another animation studio, is that in VR, it's forced us. In VR, like, you're there, like we place you directly inside the story. You can be a character in the story. You can actually, like in our first project, Invasion, a little bunny, Chloe, hops up to you and looks you directly in the eye. And anyone who's done
Awesome. Yeah.
VR knows that if something looks you in the eye and like it's like you're looking directly at the bunny, and it's like all of a sudden people treated that bunny as if she's real. And that was, like, in all honesty, the aha moment for our company, which we in some ways under assessed how powerful that experience was in VR. And that really changed how we think about storytelling, because you actually, you can be part of the direction of the story. You could be part, you could be the hero character in your story. What choices are you going to make under pressure that reveal something, so surprising yet inevitable about yourself, not just about someone you're watching up on screen. And so, but going through that, it allowed our stuff like to get noticed, and for us to, sort of build up a set of IP really quickly, and a set of stories and characters that, that all of a sudden people wanted to see as TV shows, or people wanted to see as movies, or that we could envision what the game would be. And so what was really special is that, we ran into Nico and Martine because they were also creating VR projects as one of their, many talented ways that they express themselves. And so we were, really in love with the VR project that they were doing, and we'd see them at all these different film festivals, and we knew that we wanted to collaborate together. And then they came and pitched us this idea of MomoGuro about 3 years ago, and the rest is history. When we at Baobab, we want to give filmmakers like Nico and Martine the opportunity to tell their own stories and have their unique voice. And so, we use MomoGuro as an opportunity to really say, hey, how can we think of this from the ground up as a franchise? How can we, Nico and Martine have actually been building the world and the like history and the art of MomoGuro, thinking about it as having multiple legs to the stool, where there's a TV show in mind that takes place at one point in time. There's this metaverse game that takes place at a different point in time. There's this digital collectible. And what's really cool is that especially the digital collectible, what drew us to Web3 was that it's what they're creating is so set up for a digital collectible and an NFT. And then we love creating characters, so we felt it was also like really, like in our wheelhouse a lot to be able to sort of dive into that. And then we love the fact that the community is what matters in the story in the Web3 space, and we're really excited, and we've already been just blown away by what little drips and drabs we've leaked out on to our community as Blossom, and just the most insane things. Like we watch every Friday, like all of the fan inspired art and videos, and it's mind boggling, and is really shaping how we think about MomoGuro.
Yeah, definitely check out the some of the artists that you guys had shared of some of the characters was fantastic. The IP is amazing. Like I said, I fell head over heels for it. My partner pointed it out to me, and it just checked all the boxes for what I like in terms of a cartoon, whether it's a digital collectible, a TV show, a video game, an educational series. It could be any number of things. It was like a giant, like, what is this? What's the red-capped mushroom called again?
Oh, the elder shroom mushroom? Is that what you're talking about, with the big hat?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It's an elder shroom.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's an elder shroom. Yeah. And so pretty funny, but like when we were going through the
Oh, sorry. You have to unmute there. I have to, for some reason, I jumped between. There we go. Thank you.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, one of the things that was really fun for all of us in the focus groups was showing off the art. And then I remember there was one focus group session where we had community, and we don't know where they're from. Like, we invite the community. It's kind of weird. Traditional companies go on NDA, and like, you're not really engaging with an avatar, somebody's profile pic. Like, that's awkward for Web2 companies. But like, I'm sitting here with a Bored Ape, but I'm like, it's all good. But with the art that Nico and Martine had created, one of the things that I loved was we had one session where someone was from Latin America, and they picked up on the nuances and the styles, and they said, and we didn't tell them at the time that the creators had this amazing background, and that a lot of the fusion from Latin America had been brought into MomoGuro, and the emotional response of there's not a lot of Latin American artists out there. There's not a lot of these stories. This art is different. It kind of feels a little bit Adventure Time. It feels a little bit retro, but it's not. Like, I love anime and manga. Like, this is all really cool, but it also has this fusion of culture. And I would love if Nico could talk about that a little bit, because that was that remains one of I would say a driver from the community. The art and the style is a mix of things, which is kind of a testament to Baobab's background, mixing and fusing different technologies with storytelling. And then you have this amazing creator, Nico, who really brought it to life. And I think that's worth sharing, because there's not any other project out there like what they've created.
That's very nice. Yeah, I mean, for us was always, we're Martina and I both have a career that has been about exploring new mediums, but always with our eyes on making sure that the technology doesn't derail the conversation from stories that resonate culturally and have like an impact on audiences and really connect with them. And we collectively, Martina and I, we have explored really all kinds of mediums. Like we have, feature films under our belt, and commercials and short films, and even stylistically, we are, our work ranges from stuff in animation to live action. And when we did this VR piece that led to meet Baobab, what struck us, like we found him and we found Baobab, the Baobab piece in every festival that we were ever at with the VR film. And what struck us immediately was that there was an affinity to tell stories, exploring these technologies, but to make sure that, whatever you were creating had like a cultural resonance. And to us, that was very, very important. And we brought to them this idea of MomoGuro as a seed for something that we knew could scale into something bigger. And as Alex was pointing out, it's an idea that is based on our own friendship and also our own backgrounds and experiences. It's a story that comes from, deep within or, life, but it's at the same time a story and a world that we felt that could have the potential to be scaled to a franchise. And stories tell you, like any story you create in a way speaks to you about what it wants to be. And there are stories that want to be very small and want to be something intimate and tiny and want to exist on an indie movie. This one was really calling for a big takeover. This one felt that we were creating something that at its DNA was a multi-platform thing that wanted to be explored in not only one story, but multiple different stories and timelines. And when we had this idea, I'll be 100% honest, like we took one meeting, and that meeting was with Baobab. That was the one and only meeting that we pitched MomoGuro. After that, we were collaborating and developing the IP. And immediately after, they came with the idea of, why not exploring why not exploring Web3 as an opportunity to grow this story organically with a community. And I am totally new to the field. I've been educated on Web3 for the last year, paying attention, taking notes, and learning from, mostly from Alex, really. And it's really opened my eyes to something that I feel is profound, which is the fact that as a creator, you build things on your own, right? Or with your team, and then you put them out in the world, hoping that will connect with people. What we're doing here is very different. We are creating things on a dialogue with our community. And the response we have gotten from as I think Larry touched upon this, like the tiny portion of stuff that we put out, because maybe people have seen 1% of everything we created for this, has been so overwhelming. We got waves of fun art that not only was a beauty to like witness, but also deeply influenced the way we, you know, created the different stories we were working on. And so it's been a communal effort. This has been a communal effort, not only within the team, but also with the people that are already part of this journey. And you know, and for me, it's it's the first time, and hopefully not the last, because I think the field, like, you know, it really opened my eyes to the potential of creating culture within a Web3 community, which is like really, really special for a creator.
What are some of the upsides you feel to that relationship, or like positive benefits does it bring to you as the creator?
I mean, what's bad about it, right? Like it's all upside. I mean, it's like an organic group of people reacting in real time, you know, to everything you put out, having an opinion. Web3 people are very opinionated, which I love. You know, they're not shy to voice their you know, ideas. They're not shy to support or to just like respectfully, you know, tell you that that's not the way to do it. Alex can tell you a story about a character that we internally were about to kill, and then he became the most. But why don't you tell that story, Alex? Tell it very
Yeah, you know, Mac from Big Head, you know, he helped to create CryptoKitties, and I've loved his stuff because it's really wacky and weird, right? And you know, full disclosure, I hold his NFTs because I just was like, this is like the weirdest, craziest crap. I love him. So I invited him into the focus testing, and he was taking a look at the art, and he loved the toaster. It's like Tusta is the character, and it's like, you know, this character that shoots toast at you. And
Yeah.
he was like, in all these other games, like there's always a rock. You know, Brian will tell you his background is in like, you know, Magic the Gathering and D&D. There's like these traditional characters that you always see. You're all in a group. There's always the magician. There's always the whatever. But he's like, he goes, I've never seen a toaster. Like this is already an indication that this is different. Right. So, and he loved the art. And so I went back, and we have an all hands where all of us, you know, talk about the projects, and the art team came back and was like, we're going to cut, here's the characters we're cutting. And I was like, you can't cut the toaster. Sorry. And they're like, what do you mean? And then like,
she called,
no.
she called me. She
yeah.
was like,
I'm like,
Virginia, no.
Yeah. And I was like, all the focus groups, here's all the data, guys. Like, they're saying they love the weird and wacky. So some of the boring ones, you need to cut those guys. Like Nico and Martine, go crazy, make it so it's wild. And it was really, really fun. And so we kept, that's Tusta. But that is the reason why we kept that is Mac Flavel from Big Head was a champion. And then after that, everybody else was like, we love it. And now we have people making plushies, and like, they like, you know, people create these amazing creations, and they have bread thrown at them. And it's wild. But the mushrooms and the diamonds and the toast and the what, like Nico and Martina, you know, outdid themselves. Like they really did create, you know what it was? They created the unexpected. And when you have all these combinations of the unexpected, you can't help but to have fun, because it's not what you were planning. You didn't know that was going to happen. And now with MomoGuro, you have thousands and thousands of combinations of things that are unexpected that you're doing your own personalization in. And that's just, I'm going to be honest, it's just fun. It's just fun. And Brian should talk a little bit about just his background with gaming, and really taking a look at systems and putting together.
And I'd like to thread that. I want to thread it to Brian, because one of the most interesting conversations we had early on with Brian was Nico, you know, has a love and passion for games. And not only did they watch, you know, 80s TV shows, they also played a lot of older games. And they kept kind of bringing in these old mechanics. They're like, we don't know how they work. And they were like, Brian, how should this work? And we have these characters. And then Brian's like, okay, What we've got to do is figure out what makes each of these momos, each of these characters special, and giving them abilities. And that was what was so fun about this. And this is how the characters evolved, both from the community and then obviously with Brian's expertise about how you turn that into a game, how those mechanics work, you know, within a loop such that there is a reason to come back and keep playing.
No, yeah, and before you talk, Brian, I want to say not only that influenced the game, but also the fact that we're creating everything at the same time, which at times feels a little bit like flying a plane while you build the engine. It's, you know, it's been it led to these interactions that are very unusual, where like we're creating a franchise that is not only being reflected in games, but like our conversations with Brian have actually influenced the creation of the characters and their personalities, and the mechanics and ideas of the game have, you know, reflected back at the other parts of the property, like, you know, the TV show development or the other parts. And it's been a great collaborative, you know, back and forth, and so that's why I also want you to touch upon that, Brian, if you can.
Yeah, thanks for the nice words, you guys. So the one of the central ideas of the world is that the creatures, the hollow cells, which are like kind of the humanoid characters, and the momos, which are the sort of, you know, the more animal-like or various strange inhabitants of the world. They can all shape change and shape shift and combine with each other to make combinations that you might not have expected before. And the thing that's actually special about the humanoid characters is that when a sentient and a warrior join together to make a hollow self, they can create very large combinations, not just one or two combinations of momos, but a nearly unlimited number. So part of the fun of the world and of the game that we were trying to make is to let the player discover these strange combinations together. What if I combine, you know, this creature and that creature, and that's this other one? What's it going to look like when they're all melded together? And you know, there were art considerations for that. There are gameplay considerations for that. You have to make that an interesting decision and reward the player for discovering all kinds of combinations, and make one combination work better in some situations than others. And of course, whenever you have a collectible element like collecting lots of Momo creatures, you also get a couple of other layers of fun gameplay, like trading and leveling them up, and being able to trade a leveled up character for two low level characters, and all these kinds of social decisions. And there are people who will get into a game and that's all they want to do. Like, yeah, gameplay. Like, this is like the trading card game collectors who just collect and trade, and yeah, I guess there's a game somewhere, but there's a super fun amount of depth in doing that kind of thing too. But it is the gameplay that drives demand for why would people want this character over that character. And so all of this is tied together with storytelling and discovering the world and unlocking new areas and uncovering plot points, and that's what we try to build.
How do you manage the idea of like, why I've taught not totally immutable, but if you're writing, because as a game designer, I'm sure you can normally deal with after game economics separately and not have to worry. What about in the NFT form? When you're deciding and defining some of these aspects of the characters, does it you generally would have, like, as we've seen with the Bored Ape ecosystem, they're constantly creating basically new characters to fill out the rest of the build of the ecosystem as they go. Do you feel it's restraining at all, writing pre-writing this kind of end fixture for something?
I think there's give and take, right? It certainly does introduce more difficulty, but this, there's projects that are sort of like traditional publishing where Bethesda will create Skyrim and drop it onto the gaming community and say, go consume all the content that we made. But then there's also a modding community or a more of like a Web3 community, which is like a ground up, right? Here, look at all the great things that the community has created and the ideas that they took these game worlds into that the top-down publishers never would have thought of, never would have known that there's interest in it. And so you get like this middle interaction where if you're coming from top down, you have to understand and value the community. If you're coming from the bottom up, you have to understand the value that a publisher brings. So we want to get the best of both worlds.
And one of the well, I was gonna say,
you strike me as someone who'd have a great conversation with Miko Matsumura. He loves in-game economy as well. I've had a few great conversations with him.
Yeah, he's actually an investor in Baobab, and yeah, I've known Miko for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, I love Miko.
He's great.
We always have great conversations around like in-game economies and how do you incentivize players to grow or change. There's been a bunch of what kind of unique aspects do you think the technology provides that you don't have in the traditional Web 2 design or building space?
You mean like ownership? Is this yeah, I think I mean, you're kind of getting to the core of, when game companies are exploring, I would say Web 2 versus Web 3, and the idea of ownership and what you can do with the digital assets that you have and how they might lend to future platforms and what that looks like. There's a lot of IP rights that I think we've had to really look into and chat with other communities. Yeah, around Web 2 versus Web 3. I would say benefits of the different kind of platforms. Like we actually brought in a bunch of gamers, both Web 2 and Web 3, to talk about some of the pros and cons of blockchain and gaming and rights and just the technology and where it was headed. And it was pretty interesting. At the same time, we also, in the same focus groups with a lot of people, talked about how they cared less about the IP rights and more about wanting to be part of something bigger and have kind of a legacy through their through building alongside the creator. So it was pretty interesting. But Brian, I think this is a good, based on your background with Zynga and in particular, trading card games and collectibles, the value or just kind of where the future of gaming, why Web3 gaming versus Web 2, I think is pretty timely.
Yeah, there's a segment of the NFT and crypto community who will tell you this is where games are headed. Like maybe not all games, but the industry in general, like they're headed for Web3 because you have ownership and you have community involvement, and it's something that can't be taken away from you. And even if the publisher goes in one direction, the community still has ownership of those assets and can take it in another direction. And it kind of becomes what the community makes of it. Some people kind of, my Facebook friends have criticized NFTs saying, they have no inherent value, but the inherent value that they have is membership in a community and a bundle of rights and identity within that community. So as long as the community is strong, as long as the community values each other and what each other is bringing, then that NFT or whatever game asset that you can get within a community that will continue to have value. So that is kind of like what we always have in the back of our minds, that community comes first, gameplay has to service community, the artwork, the storytelling, everything has to service the community that we want to build and that we want to keep going strong over time.
Yeah. Just one thing. I also would like to say we take feedback from the community and take a look at future platforms based on their interests. Do surveys. Like, I make it sound really like boring, but we take in feedback to find out the things that they like, the things that they would want to experience, the platforms that they find to be user-friendly, the type of games that they love to play and what drives them. So it's not all just, hey, money, or, free to play, or it doesn't all fit into that bucket. It would be nice if it did, because then I think more Web2 companies would feel like they have an easy button, but there's actually not an easy button in Web3 right now. You have to build and prod, you have to have community like by your side, you get direct feedback, like Nico was saying, they will tell you if it sucks. In addition to that, you have to pick the right blockchain so that you can, create an everlasting product that's not going to go away. If you're picking Polygon, is that the right L2 for you, or do you need something that may scale in the future in a different way, like Immutable X? And then there's also regulations around assets and tokens and all these considerations. So a company moving into Web3 has challenges, not just from a cultural perspective, but from an experience perspective, from technology perspective, to trying to figure out engagement in a nascent technology and with an industry that really is not even sure super rooted in gaming right now. They're just it's like they're trying things out. So when we pulled in communities, we were like, hey, we see you Bored Apes of the world, and Azukis and Karafuru and all of these kind of crazy communities that are Goblin Town, that's putting lore in the code and trying things that haven't been done before, because they want to experiment, and Web3 offers an amazing platform for them to do that. And same, like, we're humbly coming in going, we can tell stories, but we don't know how this is going to go, but come and build with us anyway. It's going to be pretty wild, right? So it's pretty fun.
One of the most exciting parts here for me has been watching the development, and it has not yet once ceased to impress me with where some of this stuff goes. So I don't think we're done in like the evolutionary curve. We're probably still very early in the S of this cycle. And it's one of the reasons why I asked that question about kind of in-game economies, identity, ownership. You could get into some legal arguments on whether there's ownership involved or not necessarily, and how you'd even transfer IP. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that kind of is unimportant. The idea of membership in the community, but also kind of the unique functions of inflation. How many assets are being created within the set? Is okay. Here's a way to ask a kind of a roundabout way. It's to shorten my statement. Is there a plan to ever go into and open everything as a DAO, or will it stay mostly structurally under a more pre-web holding scenario? Because we've seen things like Magic DAO has been quite good. Gala's done a few of these where they've been able to grow their kind of business from a decentralized model. Is there a plan to bring in a DAO into the future to open up the company as well, more in terms of voting rights, instead of just listening to the community for feedback? Is there a technical roadmap for something like that?
Yeah, my dog clearly has an opinion on this. He's also Web3, but I would say from when I look at the IP, I would not say anything is off the table right now. We're still really looking into what the community is and would want. And, I would say a lot of us here in this, call tonight own NFTs and are part of DAOs. and understand, hold and have held for a very long time, specific tokens or NFTs, and have voted on blockchain and really care about the future of a decentralized, a decentralized future. And I wouldn't take anything off the table right now. I think what you're going to hear from us is around, we're creating these stories and experiences, and we're experimenting with technology, but it's really kind of up to how the community decides to, to support some of these areas. And we don't know yet. Like we're knocking on wood, gonna have an amazing launch pretty soon. And I have an idea of where the community wants to go based on the feedback they've given us so far, but I don't know, still pretty early. But we definitely value the technology and the way that communities speak up.
And just mindset wise, with each of our projects, we always think of it, Alex used the word experiment. We always think of these things as an experiment, and we, at a micro level, we learn, from our focus groups and everything, but then we, as we launch and bring these into fruition, we learn from it and react. So it was very much an exciting experiment.
No, that's the best way to be. You can't have a roadmap that's perfectly solid. The reason why I ask questions like the DAO is more from a philosophical idea. Again, for me, the reason why I have such a strong interest in something like video games is the potential for the expedition of decentralized money, governance, and identity, because clearly the state has failed almost at every conceivable corner, and video games seems like these one of the, like maybe the ironic thing, whereas if governments were collapsing and video games overthrew the government by accident. This is why I'm interested in video games. It's totally abstract. I'm not a gamer. I technically don't even really care about video games. I started playing and focusing on these because I feel they're also the fastest iteration to what a DAO is, how ownership of IP or voting rights takes place. Because if we want to build or destroy a world in a digital world, it's a hell of a lot easier to do. If I want to build a road and just pay to fix the road I have right now is a pain in the ass just to get 20 people to vote and like move some money to fix the road. It's a huge deal. So I know from my personal life, it's a lot more difficult to get some of this technological infrastructure to scale. Whereas in the video game, in this world, the philosophical alignment to me, I think is an important question. Like, how does the company grow and expand? For instance, I think OpenSea eventually will go out of business because they just don't serve the customer as much as they should. You guys, every step of the way in the conversation, those so far have pointed in the right direction, servicing the community, the story, this iconic IP and art that attracted my moth-like eyes right away. So I think you guys are going to have a wonderful launch, and I'm really excited to stay up to date with where each of the steps go. I hope you venture off as far down into the Web3 focus as possible, because I think that most Web2 corporations will probably fall by the wayside. Not this year, not next decade, but I think those that really follow that curve of industry standard are the ones who will lead the way. Because the people that were defrauded or like that got screwed over, or the people that got hacked or something, this is usually this intermediary conversation that takes place. So the idea of DeFi or the decentralization of so many of these aspects is, I think, so valuable to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't care. Your artwork would still get me, but I'm like, video games. I wouldn't care. But I think, so that's my thesis is that you might, you've got something like Fortnite's revenue is higher than the entire GDP of Montenegro on a yearly basis. That means V-Bucks could be bigger than a nation state currency. There's serious ideas around what economy and identity and governance could be like, and a video game could possibly get there.
Yeah, no, my daughter is 8, and she's been playing games on iPad since she was very little, right? Like Roblox. And, the things that she wants, she doesn't care about an allowance. She wants Robux. She understands what a server is. She understands metaverse and her avatar that can change based on how she's feeling and her friend group. And it's kind of wild that that is so normal to her. And then, you know, you kind of look around and you realize that people are using their cards, they're not using cash. There's like a change that has slowly happened. And at some point, you know, I believe that gaming will serve very much as a kind of a pilot for having a complete decentralized future where identity and digital assets and ownership and kind of borderless countries and the way that things, you know, kind of come together really are will be without friction and will be leveraging
Well,
technology.
it's your contract.
Yeah, it's your
And that's what's so great about the Hollow Self for MomoGuro. It is your contract. As you play the game,
Yeah.
you know, your stats will actually get updated on your contract. You take it with you. So that's
Yeah.
what I think is so brilliant. Actually, I do want to
So
just
is
say
that is
I
that
know
attached? Is that attached to the? Okay, so as an example, you brought up a technical question here because I liked what Bored Ape did with their sewer passes recently, where
Yeah.
once the passes were basically stamped, you were able to speculate on the prices of the person who won this game. I guess the first skill-based NFT mint. You know, there's so much room to explore here. What could be done? Like we really don't know. I like that you guys have pointed out that you're in the experimentation phase. It's just we have no idea. There's a lot of this stuff where it could go. Gaming just seems like the most obvious route. So I'm really excited to see what you guys have put together. We've rolled into an hour plus of
I was just
conversation.
gonna
Yeah, we
say
were
that
just looking at
Larry's
that.
gotta go.
Yeah, I could probably.
Sorry, I could stay for a long time, but I got to pick up my daughter from gymnastics.
That's okay.
Yeah. Larry, it was a pleasure to chat. I'm Brian, Nico, Virginia, and Alex. Everyone, check out MomoGuro. The links are down in the description below. I'm a huge fan of the art. Like I said, I'm trying to FOMO click on links to get myself as whitelist or whatever. I'm a huge fan. You guys definitely caught my attention, and you have the team and skills to execute. It looks like so. I'm really excited to follow your progress and journey as you guys develop and navigate this this new Web3 brand and umbrella that you're building. Any last thoughts anyone want to share before we dive off? Awesome.
Yeah.
Just give us a thumbs up, Bear Family.
All
Remember to
right.
like, subscribe on MomoGuro and keep up to date
Cool.
with everything that they're doing. And we'll see you guys again.
Thank you so much for having us. That was
Oh yeah,
really
it was a
fun.
pleasure. Yeah, well, you guys earned it. You got
Yeah.
my attention. That's not easy. I'm hard to sell stuff, and you sold me. So good
It's
work.
okay.
Awesome.
Just collab with us. Yeah, it's cool.
Awesome. Well,
All right.
I'd love to
Bye.
continue the conversation. We'll actually
Yeah.
we'll chat
Yeah.
again here.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Bye.